Welcome to episode 14. So before we jump into the play here, I want to show you this hand because it was literally the first hand that I just played. We got aces in the big blind here, and this guy opens. I did not know before, I had no information on the guy. He calls, we squeeze. Pretty standard. And now this guy cold calls. Usually what this indicates is that it's either a tight player slow playing something really strong, or it's simply a player that is very passive and called stupid stuff. And because I have never seen this guy before, at least I don't think so, I just assumed, okay, he's probably more on the he's gonna be calling stupid stuff side, and this is gonna be important in this hand because, yeah, we get this flop and I decide to bet small. Pretty standard here for me. And calls, and now it starts to become interesting because I think a lot of people start checking here. But you need to be thinking about this guy's range. If you say he's a loose passive player, then checking here is I think a mistake. Once we assume he's a loose passive player, we need to just be 100% confident about this guy being that and just pulling through, because you cannot change your, like, you cannot do stuff out of an assumption and then later on in the hand change your assumption. I mean, sometimes you do that simply because you get some information that you can work with, but here we didn't get any other information. Then he calls a cold call, and he cold calls a squeeze, and then he calls my c-bet on the flop. I mean, that's not really any information that says, oh, he's not a loose passive player. Anyway, now because we know that, we give him a very loose range. We probably give him all possible suited connectors, so he will have 5-6 suited here, he will have a bunch of flush draws, he will have pocket 10s, pocket 9s, pocket 8s, pocket 6s, pocket 4s, pocket deuces. He will have ace highs that call, even though we block them, which is good for us. But yeah, just bet half pot, bet for value, because we are planning on getting it in on brick rivers, and yeah, this is a brick river. So now on this river, I assume if I bet, he's gonna call any pair most of the time, because if he calls turn, he's putting me on a bluff, and this river doesn't change anything. And that's the way those people usually think, that they put you on a bluff or not, on the flop or turn already, and then they just call you down if they have anything. And yeah, I jam the river. He calls, and yeah, he shows 10-7 suited, and that's even a hand, like this hand I didn't even expect. Like, this is even looser than what I gave him. Like, for example, the loosest suited connector I gave him here was 7-9 suited, or something like 7-5 suited, and 10-7 suited is, yeah, it's just crazy loose. But at least it confirms my belief. And yeah, this is the exploitative play, right? Because if against a tight passive regular, you're not going to be able to get 3 streets of value here ever. They're always going to fold once you put in your stack, because they put you on Jack X or better. It's very rare that against a tight passive regular that they bluff catch you here, and it makes sense too. I mean, you see my hand, right? It's not like I'm doing this with pocket 10s. On a side note though, I do have bluffs here. I'm not gonna go through what my bluffs are here, but I actually do have bluffs. But I play them totally different, with especially the sizings are very different, so I lose a lot less on my bluffs here than I win with my actual value bets. But that obviously, that's all. The reason it works is that he has no chance of knowing that. If I have no information on him, then he has no information on me, right? And I mean, through the hand we got the information about him, but even that information that we got, that okay, he cold calls a squeeze and stuff like that, that's only really information for you if you're really experienced in the game already. I mean, even though the funny thing in poker also is that if you play a lot of hands, that at some point having no information on someone is actually already information, because you can assume that, okay, if you have no information, then he's not a regular, and if he's not a regular, then he will have certain tendencies, okay? And yeah, you can obviously abuse that to your advantage if you know how. Anyway, I just wanted to go over this hand because I think a lot of people start getting afraid on the turn and will not stack this guy here, even though you should probably do it every time. And I know from myself as well that it happens to me too. Then I often just autopilot and start checking this turn, or I check the river because I don't think he calls or whatever. But let's jump into some live play. This is an interesting spot. I'm gonna 3-bet pretty small here. And now we get a min 4-bet. Wow, this is like the weirdest hand I've ever played, man. His range should be really, really strong if he does it. In theory, it can only be aces because it's the only hand that doesn't give us spot outs. And this flop I jam. We probably get it in against exactly aces or kings. Against this hand, we get it in really good though. We should have over 50% against this hand. Let me see. On the flop. Yeah, we are actually over 50%. But something interesting to note is that even though we got it in with 52%, obviously against this range we don't get it in that good. So whenever we do this jam on the flop here, we need some fold equity. If we never get a fold, if he does bet and we jam, then a jam is very minus EV. But because I think there's a chance he will bet ace king and fold, or have some random hands that can bet fold here. I really don't need much fold equity, I just need 10% or something like that, and then it's fine. But yeah, this time we got it in really good. And another thing to note also is that, first let me raise. It's a wet board, so I'm not afraid of getting for value. Is that we pay about 5% rake in such big pots. So even though we get it and with 52% on the flop, we're actually losing money. And yeah, we really need to have fold equity on our flop raise. I think it's probably gonna be like 10 to 20%, something like that, to break even, and then any percentage higher will be pure profit. I think it's pretty interesting. And it's also pretty interesting that he decides to min 4-bet jacks here. That's very bad, because as you can see, he made it possible for us to realize our equity. If he uses a normal 4-bet sizing, I'm actually folding here, because I just don't think I can realize enough of my equity. If you notice a little bit of lag, it's not on your side, it's just that my computer right now is a little bit overworked, I guess. And this is close. This is much closer than it seems. So the standard play here would be to call. But how likely is it that he's ever bluffing here? Because I think his bluffs on the turn would mostly be stuff like queen jack, king queen, king jack, and he doesn't have a reason to bluff the river. I'm just gonna overfold there. That's most likely queens, king, jacks, aces. I'm gonna over 42. If they play the bet line, bet check, like bet flop, check turn, bet river on brick boards, it's usually a value bet, and I lose against his value bets here. We also can't assume that he 3-bets something like 9s in button versus UTG and then plays bet check bet, so yeah, I literally think I just always lose if I call the river. I hardly imagine him playing ace queen like that, or ace jack. And he won't even have ace jack often, I think. Because people usually 3-bet to tie it and not to lose. Like even ace queen is probably already not 100% 3-bet here for most people. I don't know if he has bluffs if I check back turn. That's the problem in this hand. Now we have to call river, and I actually think against the sizing we always lose, but let's see. It's usually that they play that face up where if they bomb it large like that they just always have value only. Those types of players. Okay, let's check all. Okay, this makes things very easy here. Just call. I don't want to bet too large, like he's just gonna fold so much on this time. Now we want to set up a river shove here, so I'm gonna have bet half pot. Gonna bet large here, he's gonna hero call very often, and now that's really... wow. Wow, that is super unexpected. They usually don't play... I mean, this is never a bluff, so I'm always losing here. But they usually bet the turn with their stuff that can now jam the river like this for value. Wow. That's actually crazy. That's that line you see very, very rarely. Very rarely. It's very close to 0%. Because they just are not playing... Like, they do play bet check bet or bet check raise a lot for value. It's just that in those spots they don't. There's a lot of things going on that make it very unrealistic that they do it. Anyway, but we got it in here in the other spot. Something that probably happened here was just simply him having ace-3 suited. That's a hand that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, if he has pocket 8s, he's not gonna check the turn, he's gonna be way too afraid that the river's bad. He cannot really have something like 3-4 suited. Ace-3 suited is really the only hand that really makes sense to play this line. And yeah, you can hero call and think like, oh yeah, he's just wrapping ace-3 suited 3 combinations. Or his 2 combinations of that, but he's gonna have it. Trust me, he's gonna have it. If he wraps it, he's gonna have it, because they just don't bluff raise all in on rivers like that. Like, he's not gonna go for thin value with pocket 10s, you know? He's not doing that. Especially not with that line. Alright, that's it for episode 14. After this hand. Leave a like or dislike, leave a comment if you have any questions or things you want to mention. Check out my Twitch link in the description and leave a subscription if you liked it. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.